Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
17 million senatorial votes were not counted in the 2025 election due to overvoting.
Risa Ontiveros says she is open to becoming the standard bearer of the opposition bloc for the 2028 presidential election.
The no apprehension policy, or NCAP, will be implemented on Monday, May 26.
Private hospitals sound alarm over 7 billion pesos in unpaid medical services linked to losing political bets. First in the news, President Bongbong Marcos calls for the courtesy resignations of cabinet secretaries. Marcos said this aims to recalibrate his administration following the midterm elections. According to the president, the Filipino people expect results, not politics, not excuses. For the Presidential Communications Office, the move marks a clear transition from the early phase of governance to what it describes as a more focused and performance-driven approach of leadership.
Over 1 million Filipino voters shaded more candidates than needed, making their votes invalid. Here's the report.
Over 17 million votes in Bilang Pilipino 2025 were invalidated due to overvoting. That came from 1.3 million Filipinos who voted more than 12 senators, while less than 1 million voters shaded more than one party list. Despite this, COMELEC Chairman George Garcia maintained that this is not unusual.
Tingnan niyo po, bakit po hindi naging malaking issue noong 2022? Noong 2022 po ang ating pong overvoting was almost 900,000 din. Ibig sabihin po, may overvoting sa lahat po ng eleksyon, lagi nagawa. Hindi po natin kayang pigilan. Kung ang mga kababayan natin ay minsan po kasi
over-enthusiastic.
Na-shade na, nagbago isip, inaglagay ng X. Kasi po nagbago isip, pero yun nga po touch move po kasi.
Recall that some Duterte-backed candidates who lost in the polls were calling for a recount due to overvoting. Garcia said they could use this as a ground for electoral protest.
Para makita talaga kung yan ba'y smudge o talaga bang nagtuldok lang o talaga bang medyo nalagyan ng X kasi hindi po isinid. So diyan po mabibilang. Kasi po sa protesta, binibilang talaga manually ang lahat ng balota at nagke-claim ka na itong balotang ito dapat amin, hindi dapat binaliwala.
According to the poll body, election provider Miru delivered its promises, but they will still conduct assessments to improve their tools.
Sa susunod na eleksyon, magkakaroon naman tayo ng bagong TOR. Alamin natin ano bang dapat, ano bang karagdagan, o baka talagang dapat makapal na papel na, dapat ganitong klaseng ballpen, dapat ganitong klaseng scanner, dapat yung bilis mas doble pa.
Meanwhile, the midterm elections may be over, but the opposition is already eyeing 2028 with Senator Risa Ontiveros emerging as a potential presidential candidate. The details in this report.
I'm open to all possibilities. I'm not saying no.
This is Senator Risa Ontiveros' answer to being the traditional opposition standard bearer in the 2028 presidential elections. Even as the 2025 polls just wrapped up, the lawmaker admits her group is already in the process of preparing for what's next. Ontiveros hopes her allies feels the same way she does about the matter.
At yun yung hinihingi ko din sa lahat na mga kasama sa opposition or independent bloc na maging bukas kami sa lahat ng possibilities at sa isa't isa, alang-alang sa oposisyon at alang-alang sa ating mga kababayan.
For now, Ontiveros says the priority is to consolidate the forces of the opposition in the next 9 months. She plans to reach out not only to allies, but to supporters and others who helped them in the campaign.
I do feel na mas nakapag-accumulate kami ng kahit konti pang mas maraming kapangyarihan sa ngayon, as affirmed, as validated ng ating mga botante. So yung hindi namin na-maximize na pagkakataon ng 2022 na mag-consolidate, we have that rare second chance now.
Ontiveros is also ready to lead the minority in case she will be joined by returning Senators Bam Aquino and Kiko Pangilinan in the bloc. Still, there's that possibility that the minority label might go to the allies of former President Rodrigo Duterte at the upper chamber. If this comes to pass, Ontiveros would rather opt out.
May option pa rin po ako or kami kung magdesisyon po kami na isang independent bloc na magpapatuloy talaga sa pag-check and balance, magpapatuloy sa pag-fiscalize, at pati sa labas ng Senado, magpapatuloy sa pagbubuo ng oposisyon. Pareho sa Duterte at kina Presidente.
Joining the majority bloc is also out of the question.
Importanteng manatiling consistent na hindi sumali sa majority, lalo na kung hindi naman ako kaalyado ng administrasyon, at mag-provide ng alternative pole or center of gravity.
What if her allies vote a different way when it comes to the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte? Ontiveros says, no problem, no hard feelings.
Each senator judge, of course, has to cast his or her vote. Ang pine-presume ko lang ay unanimity sa disposition, sa ugali, na neutral senator judges voting on the basis of the evidence presented.
Mobile journalist Isa Abelio, we are One News.
To talk more about Senator Risa Ontiveros' potential presidential run, we have Professor Edmund Tayao. He's the president and CEO of the Political Economic Elemental Researchers and Strategists, or PEERS. Welcome to News and Views, Prof. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Prof.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, Prof, I guess you saw yung statements ni Senator Risa, although very vague, pero nonetheless, nagparamdam na rin si Senator Risa. Usually kasi in the past, she would deny or refute such claims. Now, were you surprised at all with the openness in the statements?
Well, we have already concluded the midterm elections. Alam mo, ang nakaka-surprise yung mga, well, lalong-lalo na, nung katatapos lang ng 2022 election, meron ng mga nagpalabas ng survey. Even if they did not say anything categorical or anything near categorical that they have any plans for 2028, the fact that they have contracted a survey and even put it out there in the open is already a tacit announcement, no, that they are running for 2028. Yung mga ganong moves actually in the vernacular medyo atat yun, ano? But at the same time, it's also ill-advised, no, politically, because you are already putting yourself out in the open. We should have learned from so many examples before, no? Former Speaker Villar, Mar Rojas, and so many others, no?
Binay.
Jojo
VP Binay.
very early on, no?
Right.
So yun ang dapat nating tingnan. So this is a welcome development, so to speak. Anyway, ang sabi naman niya tinitingnan pa lang eh. Kasi whether we like it or not, there really has to be a few names that will be put out there in the open, no, for the people's consideration ahead of the 2028 presidential elections.
Before I turn it over to Angel, I'd like to add to that. No, do you think the openness of the statement of Senator Risa has something to do with how Senator Bam and Senator Kiko performed? In the past kasi parang they would just shoot down the idea. But siguro now na-reinvigorate sila seeing na meron bagong trust and confidence ang taong bayan sa so-called true opposition.
Alam mo, definitely hindi pwedeng ang tawag dito i-deny natin, no, that is really something. You know, before the end of the late Pinoy's administration, talagang ramdam mo na talagang nawala yung Aquino and Yellow Magic, no? And of course, during the time of former President Duterte, talagang nabugbog sila, no, ng propaganda, ng information. And in fact, midterm elections nung time ni President Digong, 12-0 pa, no? So talagang wala silang espasyo whatsoever. But you know, to my mind, this is not just something that's to invigorate them or reinvigorate them, ano? This is a very strong statement that the messaging that was used, or the messages of the previous of the Duterte group before, that yellow is bad and that it's elitist and you know, the making it an evil color and group, is now finding resurrection. So naiisip ng tao ngayon na hindi pala ito totoo, and we should consider them back in the political table.
And to be fair din naman, on the other side of the fence, may mga nakikita rin tayo ng mga muusbong, hindi naman muusbong, but alam naman natin ng mga tina-target nila na pwede rin kumandidato bilang presidente. Of course, nandyan si VP Sara with the tandem of Amy Marcos. And they're seeing 2028 as a year for women. Yun nga po yung sinasabi nila. Pero going to Senator Risa Ontiveros pa rin, do you think po ba yung kanyang pag-head ng mga hearings, ng Senate hearings sa Pogo, Kibuloy, naging factor din po ba yun sa pagiging visible niya ngayon sa political arena?
Lahat naman yan, Angel, naging factor, no? And of course, we should not discount the fact that matagal naman na si Senator Risa dyan. And it's been quite an underdog in the Senate for a long time. And sa atin, kaya nga malakas na nananatili ang pangalang Duterte, kasi ang akala ng tao underdog yung kanila, yung estilo nila kasi is magpaka-underdog, inaapi sila and so on, no? Ito si Senator Risa, hindi niya kailangan sabihin na nagpapaapi siya, talagang naaapi siya. But let me also add to that, in other words, yung exposure niya as a political figure really, no, has really been quite consistent, no? But let me also say that that being put out in the open, I mean, her being an option, no, as someone to run for higher office, it also means that it's not only limited to her. Take note, no, na yun nga, as you guys have mentioned, no, nakabalik si Senator Bam and si Senator Kiko, and rather with the bank, no. So, dati ding mga presidential timber yung mga yan, no? Maraming pang mga ibang pangalan na hindi pa nababanggit. In fact, one of them, I would already add to the mix, no? Former Senator and now Department of Education Secretary Sani Angara, no? Lahat na pag-uusapan yan before pa, no? Kaya lang, yun na nga, makikita mo yung mga political figures na nag-iisip, no? They're taking their time really to make sense of the situation before they make an announcement. And we should just read, no, between the lines, and wait for them to actually make that much awaited announcement.
But during I remember, Prof, na during in the middle of the campaign season, tapos nagkakabangayan between the Marcos and the Duterte camps, a lot of the electorate were looking towards, sa opposition at least, sa pink wave, they were looking to a leader na sabi na parang absent ang leader natin. They were looking to Robredo, VP Robredo, or Mayor Robredo for guidance. Parang wala siya. Now, do we see parang the torch being passed over from VP Robredo to, well, possibly right now, Senator Risa Ontiveros?
Yeah, meron nga kasing vacuum, no? And it's good that you've mentioned that. There was a serious effort really to look for an alternative. The reason being that, kaya hindi ako naniniwala, no, na panalo ito on the part of the Dutertes. Kasi, kahit pa sabihin nila.
All right.
Yes, Prof?
Can you hear us okay? Medyo nawala siya. We'll try. Yeah, okay.
Yan na.
Are you still there, Prof? Yeah, we're gonna...
I'm back, no?
Yeah, there you go.
Back. It's back.
There you go.
Go, Prof. You were saying?
As I was saying, hindi ako naniniwala na yun na nga totoo na nanalo sila, no? Kasi kung totoo nanalo sila, siguro mahigit 5 yung nanalo sa slate nila, no? Nanalo si Senator Villar, Senator Camille Villar, and Senator Amy Marcos, hindi dahil sa endorsement lang. Nakadagdag yun, fine, no? But if the endorsement came to another Juan de la Cruz, no, na hindi with the political backing, na meron ng buffer, like a Villar or a Marcos, hindi mananalo yan. Kasi yung 5 na hindi nanalo sa Duterte, no, mga kilalang tao din, no? So, pero bakit sila natalo? In-endorse din sila. So what I'm saying really is, that if there is any reason why they remain with that thinking that malakas sila and so on, kasi wala pang ang nakikita na alternative na ilalaban sa 2028. So this is really a very this is really the timing, no, to look for someone who will stand up for 2028.
And taking this opportunity na rin, Prof. Tayo, doon sa recent report namin, earlier report, si President Bongbong Marcos calling for the courtesy resignations of all of his cabinet members. What do you make of this?
Knee jerk ba ito?
Alam mo, medyo matalinhaga yung move na yan. Ano? I mean, whether it's knee-jerk or what have you, being a president and you're talking of the whole government for that matter, no? Hindi po pwedeng basta-basta gagawin mo. And knowing the president, no, I've been one of the consultants of then Senator Bongbong Marcos in the Committee of Local Government, no? Dalawa kami former NCPAG din at that time. Nakita ko yung decision making, no? He takes his time and doesn't make any hasty decision. In fact, every now and then the reason why we were asked to be there is to always provide a more in-depth analysis and study before any decision is made. And so I'm not inclined to think that this is just an abrupt decision. So I can only speculate that one, definitely there is a need for a reorganization. The president must have thought that. And even before the election, there has been an ongoing review of the performance of many cabinet secretaries. And I'm sure, of course, you've heard that some of them really are expected to be replaced soon. No? So hindi lang isa, dalawa yung napapabalitang ganyan. So siguro naisip ng Pangulo na nangyari na rin lang itong midterm election, alam nyo naman na ang timing palagi ng reorganization nangyayari halfway to a presidential administration, no? So this is what expected, no? But I'm inclined to think and agree that there is really something more than that announcement.
And with that, kasi may sinabi din siya dun sa kanyang podcast
Oo.
I want to be respected, diba? Pero I think fear is needed. So, are we going to be seeing more fierce president in the administration? Prof?
Compared to the other presidents that we've seen, we have a president who doesn't talk that much.
Yes, that's right.
And really, when he talks, pinipili niya yung mga pagkakataon na
Actually, parang every move
because
is
he knows that when he speaks, that he knows that when he speaks, it carries so much weight, no? So siguro sabihin na lang natin na mas maninimbang ka ngayon, no? In the last 3 years of this president's administration.
So moving forward, Prof, you're talking about the last 3 years. So we don't expect the president to soften up in terms of his relationship with the Dutertes. Kasi some people were yung sa Marcos camp, were kind of worried na baka lumalambot na daw si PBBM because he was saying na he's open to reconciliation and he's going to rethink yung drug war to a street level, which was the same policy as PRRD, and with the combination of the revamp of the cabinet. So akala nila baka he's trying to capture the vote from the South.
Alam mo, if you're the president, no, or any thinking political leader to that effect, no, you're not going to leave any option out of the table. So lahat yan, it should be readily available. But again, no, you think like a fox, sabi nga ni Niccolo Machiavelli, no?
Yeah.
So even if you are leaving all those options open there, it depends how this will be read by your counterpart. No, wag nang opponent, counterpart na lang. Depende sa kanila kung paano nila babasahin itong mga itong pangungusap mo, no? So definitely I think the president is sincere in saying that he's open to reconciliation. Kasi alam mo, it's to everyone's benefit. Actually, tanungin ko kayo, meron bang talagang nagge-gain dito sa away na ito? Kung po akong tatanungin ninyo, pareho silang talo eh.
That's right.
No? Kasi pareho silang naglalabasan ng weaknesses nila, ano? At pareho silang nababawasan ng political capital. And this is the very reason why the people is looking for an alternative. And this is so the reason why the result of the elections has been rather mixed.
Yeah, interesting. I'd like to add to what you said. Silang dalawa ang natatalo. Now, do you think he's open to reconciliation because nakita niya may Aquinong nag-number 2 sa eleksyon?
Alam mo, wala na sa kanya yan. Alam mo,
Wala
sa
na.
totoo, I've personally, ito sabihin ko na sa inyo, and this was way before he became president. He was not even thinking of running for presidency at that the last recollection of a talk with him. No, kung siya lang ang tatanungin, tapos nang matagal yung issue na yan between the Marcos and the Aquino, no. Pero yun na nga, there are so many things to consider, especially if your name is among those that has always been there in the country's history. So maraming considerations. But in other words, for him to consider the name Aquino as still an old opponent, I don't think ganun pa din. No? That this is really, to my mind, no, an effort to look forward and to leave a legacy, so to speak.
And what do you make of naman, Prof, doon sa possible shake-up, no, ng leadership in both houses, Congress and Senate? First, sa Congress, we're seeing Toby Tiangco saying in the beginning talagang against na siya sa impeachment, against Vice President Sara Duterte. So what do you make of that?
Alam mo, if you're a political leader, kung ganyan na mag-flip-flop ka, no, malaking bagay yan at dapat pinag-iisipang mabuti, no. I'm sorry to say, hindi ko pa mabasang mabuti yan, pero sa tingin ko, no, hindi tama na biglang mag-flip-flop ng ganon, ano. So kahit pa anong justification ang gawin mo diyan, kasi again, if you are going to ask me, it's not everything is lost, no, as far as the administration is concerned. As far as this midterm election is concerned, no, it just to my mind, the message rather is simply that the people is looking for an alternative, and that's the reason why there's a resurgence of a resurgence of relevance as far as other groups that have been dismissed by the previous administration as no longer relevant. No? So hindi tamang sabihin na natalo kami. So at hindi ko to kasalanan. So excuse na lang na lumalabas yan. So if you're thinking of your political future, especially at the national level, that's a no. But of course, we know for a fact that Representative Toby Tiangco is more of a local leader or local name. For medyo he can afford to say those things and to afford some expendable political capital, no, pero at the expense of the administration.
All right, indeed, a lot can still happen until 2028.
Yes, 3 years.
Until
3
then,
years.
we'll be talking to you. Thank you so much, Professor Ed Montaya of Pierce. Thank you.
All right, Malacanang clarifies that President Bongbong Marcos's peace offer was not solely for the Dutertes. Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro said it was intended for anyone who has differing views with the ruling administration. Recall that Marcos said he needed friends rather than enemies.
Huwag po tayo mag-focus na sinasabing open for reconciliation para lamang sa mga Duterte. Maliwanag po ang sinabi ng Pangulo sa lahat ng tao na maaaring hindi kapareho ng kanyang paniniwala o ng prinsipyo o ng polisiya.
Castro also noted that the chief executive will neither break nor bend the law just for reconciliation with anyone. According to the palace, Marcos cannot be manipulated.
Tandaan po natin, hindi po magpapahawak sa liig at hindi po magpapadikta ang Pangulo sa mali. Hindi po tatalikuran at babaliktarin ng Pangulo ang batas para lamang pagsilibihan ang personal na interes ng iilan. So tandaan po natin, lagi pong sa batas ang Pangulo. Kaibigan o batas? Batas pa rin po ang pipiliin ng Pangulo.
The Department of Justice now considers Harry Roque a fugitive following the issuance of an arrest warrant against him over human trafficking charges. The DOJ is requesting a red notice from Interpol and plans to cancel his passport. Roque, who is currently in the Netherlands, claims a red notice is meaningless without local police enforcement. But the DOJ insists Roque cannot claim refugee status or invoke non-refoulement, a principle that bars states from returning asylum seekers to countries where they face persecution or torture. For Malacanang, Roque must prove he faces such threats for non-refoulement to apply.
Bring him home.
Bring him home.
Sabi, bring Harry home. Di ba sabi?
Oo, even si
Attorney Panelo,
Sal Panelo,
kilala na niya.
Yun ang sinasabi.
Oo, nung
niya.
una,
Pero may
I don't
mga
know him.
sagutan silang dalawa eh.
Diba nung una, I don't know him. Now, umuwi ka na. Face it kung ano. Ang cute ng ano nila eh, ng back and forth nila, di ba? Between two noted legal minds.
I know.
Yung thinking
dating
nila.
magkasama,
Oo.
ngayon magkaaway.
Ay,
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
Over 800 schools are set to participate in the pilot run of the revised K-12 program. The Education Department said the strengthened program for grades 11 and 12 will be piloted this incoming school year. Now, one of the key features is the reduction of core subjects from the 15 being offered per semester to just 5 that will be offered for a full year in grade 11. According to the DepEd, they will closely monitor the implementation across different governance levels. School year 2025 to 2026 is set to open on June 16 this year and end on March 31, 2026.
Now let's discuss this further with Philippine Business for Education.
The organization's executive director, Hannibal Camua, is now on Zoom. Thank you for joining us.
Hi sir, thanks for joining us again.
Good morning po at maraming salamat. Thank you for having me again.
Alright, parang just to refresh yung our viewers, no? Ano yung backgrounder with the need to revise the K-12 program?
Well, sir, number one, the need to revise the K-12 program is actually coming off from recommendations as well from consultation done by the government, particularly through EDCOM2. And doon nakita po, and it was found out in the consultations, one of the main findings was actually the lack of industry immersion hours.
That's right.
So there was a significant increase in terms of the industry immersion hours to make sure that our graduates are actually exposed to the real world of work. So that's one of the revisions that was actually done in the revised K-12 or in the revised senior high school curriculum. Another as well is it has been it was found out that the curriculum of the senior high school was actually very crowded. So in terms of the number of subjects and also the core subjects, so they reduced it significantly. Also to align with what is actually in the global standards. All these revisions are actually, we're seeing it as the Department of Education's way to make sure that K-12 actually fulfills its promise na you don't have to go to college to have or to be viable for employment. So we've seen here that in the revised K-12 curriculum, more industry immersion hours and also decongested curriculum, just focusing more on the core subjects, and then the learner has more, let's say, decision making to choose which electives he or she can get.
Dagdagan ko lang yan before I go to yun. You were mentioning kasi, which was, I've heard this before, about the hours, the lack of actual immersion hours, no? Do you think by addressing this issue, by giving them experience with immersion hours sa industry, will provide them the necessary yung competitiveness against those who have actual experience? Because ang reason ng ibang kumpanya is we want to hire somebody who has actual industry experience. Now, by addressing this with immersion hours, do you think mag-i-improve ang employability ng mga students?
If the work immersion hours or actually the work immersion program is done right, sir, I would say that yes. Particularly, in the Philippines, we have heard, let's say, comments about work immersion or OJT that the actual na ginagawa doon sa OJT is hindi naman mismo aligned sa kung ano yung kanyang pinag-aaralan. So, madaming nagko-comment na, baka pagtimplahin lang kami ng kape dyan or baka ipag-photocopy lang kami. But if there is, let's say, a work immersion, let's say, training plan, at susundin yung training plan, I would say, and there are models that actually prove that longer industry or work immersion hours actually lead to better, let's say, employment for our learners.
Now, in PBED naman po, sir, do you guys agree on this new curriculum that will be launched? And can you also enlighten us if you know po the data or the information on how are they going to nominate po yung process po yung sinong schools yung magsisimula?
Actually, ma'am, from what we know from DepEd, so the let's say the pilot of this enhanced senior high school program, and actually this is not just DepEd, kasama po dito yung TESDA as well. So there is actually an interagency initiative for this enhanced senior high school program, particularly because also of the Tech Pro track. So I think the choice of school was actually done earlier this year, and it was, I think, through consultations as well. And then there was like they were also thinking of how this would be spread across the country in terms of also the regions. The 800 or more or less 700 plus schools that will participate in the pilot, and actually will gather, based on the pilot, they will gather, let's say, the feedbacks coming from this pilot implementation, and then that's the base point as to where to see where further improvements are actually needed. Pero kami sa PBED, kami po sa PBED, we are actually saying that while this enhanced senior high school curriculum is actually good, we welcome this, but by the end of the day, we also need to look at our teachers. Kung sino po yung magtuturo nitong curriculum, are they also empowered? Are they trained and empowered to execute this curriculum as mandated? Because we see that even though gaano kaganda yung curriculum, how good the curriculum is, if the teachers are actually not trained on how to teach the curriculum, then baliwala po yun. Kailangan hand in hand that when you enhance the curriculum, there should be also a corresponding process of training and empowering the teachers that will teach the curriculum.
It's good that you pointed that out po, sir, kasi yesterday we were talking about it, and meron din report kasi that the DepEd will hire 16,000 teachers, and we all know naman yung problema yung napapalooban ng problema na sinasabi nila right now 6 out of 10 of teachers ay nagtuturo ng mga subjects na hindi naman nila kasama sa major nila when they were studying. So nakikita natin yung subject mismatch. And nagiging problema din daw po, sir, yung kung saan kukunin itong mga teachers na ito. Your thoughts on that po?
Well, number one, it's good that there is that additional 16,000 teaching items that was opened up by DepEd for hiring this year. But if you're going to look at in let's say the universe of how many teachers are we lacking, the latest data that we got, so actually there is a nationwide shortage of 56,000 teachers. So even with the 16,000, kulang pa din po yun to achieve, let's say, an ideal teacher-to-learner classroom or teacher-to-learner ratio. But again, it is a conscious effort by the DepEd, and so we welcome that. It's a conscious effort by DepEd to at least augment at may address itong problema sa teachers. So in terms naman of And that actually is nagsasanga-sanga yung problema on the shortage of teachers. If you have, as what you've mentioned, ma'am, if you have a shortage of teachers, those who are already in the system, yung mga teachers natin na nasa sistema na, ay napipilitan na magturo ng mga subjects na outside of their, let's say, expertise or outside, let's say, ng kanilang major. Makikita din natin dyan na overwork yung mga teachers natin. As evidence po from the EDCOM 2 report, 42% of our teachers spend over 50 hours a week working. No? So, more than 50 hours a week is, we would say, makikita natin na overwork yung ating mga teachers. And that actually stems as well from the fact that there is really that shortage of teachers. More than that, may shifting pa, which is actually, again, compounding because may shortage of teachers, may shortage of classrooms. And therefore, merong mga schools na nagkakaroon ng shifting.
That's right.
On the naman of the supply, on the part naman of the supply of teachers, kung saan kukunin yan, maganda na na-mention mo yan, ma'am, because there are actually teacher education institutions that are centers of excellence. So dapat kailangan tingnan natin kung ano yung yung mga schools na nagpo-produce ng quality teachers, board top-notchers, yung mga schools na talagang ang kanilang that really excel on teacher education. And that's where the Teacher Education Council or the TEC plays a very big role, na yung pre-service, yung mga nasa pipeline to become teachers, mabibigyan ng karampatang support, scholarships, and so on po.
Pero they were saying also kasi yung based sa curriculum ng bagong revised K-12, may mga certain core competencies na kailangan from certain teachers na hindi mo mahahanap sa mga fresh graduates, which are only available from teachers from the private sector. So ang fear ng iba is baka naman, you need 16,000 teachers, but kukunin mo naman ito sa private sector, din nawala naman ng 16, or at least a majority of them mawawala naman sa private sector. So in essence, you are not solving a problem. You're just merely shifting the problem somewhere else.
That's a very good point, sir. But actually po, there is, as what we've said, it's more of a public-private complementarity. And this is, dito rin papasok yung role also of, let's say, ng mga industry experts. And if I may, as what I've said, may papel din po yung TESDA dito. And actually, TESDA has a very good working model on how to engage, let's say, industry experts to become, let's say, also teachers and facilitators and also assessors for certain courses. So maganda po yan, and I think there are, as you are correct, there are certain core courses and competencies na yung private sector or yung mga tao talaga experts on the industry yung magaling dapat magturo niyan. And I think based on the principle of public-private complementarity, it can be addressed that let's say a certain time of the industry expert can be allotted to supervising or training yung mga nag-work immersion sa kanilang mga companies. So I think there is a working model with that, and it's really more on the implementation and application of that model.
Marami pa tayong dapat gawin when it comes to our education sector. Talagang maraming trabaho pa. But with that, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Hannibal Camua, ang Executive Director of PBED. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much po. Thank you.
Now, in other news, 3 people have been confirmed dead after a suspected cholera outbreak in barangay in the province of Apayao. Here's a report.
In Barangay Sakpil, Connor, Apayao, local authorities are now dealing with the aftermath of a suspected contamination incident. Over 95 cases of diarrhea were recorded between April 29 and May 14 this year, according to the Apayao Provincial Health Office. Bacterial contamination in the water supply is believed to be the main cause of the outbreak. Lab tests also revealed the presence of other bacteria, including those that cause amoebiasis, typhoid fever, and leptospirosis. The local government, along with health and other sectors, has rallied to provide clean water and assistance to affected residents.
So, initially, we have found out that water might be probably the most common source of the diarrheal cases. So patuloy pa rin ang investigasyon, ngunit ang mga natukoy na bacteria sa ngayon ay karaniwang matatagpuan sa lupa at tubig. That's why we are strengthening environmental sanitation and personal hygiene as a way of prevention.
There are reports that the death toll may have reached 8, but the Provincial Health Office says only 3 deaths have been officially reported to them so far. Investigations to verify additional deaths are ongoing.
In our official list, we have already 3 mortality or those who died from the said incidents. We have a 25-year-old male, a 35-year-old male, and a 58-year-old male, which actually happened on April 29, April 30, and May 3.
With this, the government urges residents to practice strict hygiene.
Hinihikayat po natin ang lahat sa ugaliing maghugas ng kamay, uminom lamang ng malinis at ligtas na tubig, panatilihin ang kalinisan sa kapaligiran, at sumunod sa wastong sanitasyon at magsanay na tamang paghahanda ng pagkain.
Meantime, the outbreak declaration will depend on further data and assessments by the local government.
The Transportation Department supports the implementation of the No Contact Apprehension Policy, or NCAP. Secretary Vince Dizon, however, noted that traffic records and systems require further improvement. According to Dizon, citation tickets fall under the owner of the vehicle, not to the erring driver. Under NCAP, violations are caught by CCTVs instead of MMDA personnel. It will be re-implemented on Monday, May 26, after the Supreme Court lifted the TRO against the policy.
Kung mahirap ilipat dahil sa mga komplikadong mga proseso at red tape, problema din yan. So, on our end, nag-commit po ang DOTR at ang LTO na isi-streamline natin yung prosesong yan. Pero at the same time, kailangan meron ding consequence kung hindi mo ilipat.
Well, the DOTR plans to deploy up to 200 additional buses to the busway as the EDSA rehabilitation begins. They are also looking at the possibility of extending the MRT operations. The MMDA, for its part, is now preparing its command center for the rehabilitation of EDSA.
Okay, so amid the call of PBBM kanina, di ba yung call niya for courtesy resignation ng kanyang cabinet secretaries, we have reports coming in. One of the cabinet secretaries who resigned is already DOTR Secretary Vince Dizon.
Yeah.
He's one of the secretaries who resigned, and also we have MMDA Chairman Romando Ortez. Sabi nila they will comply. We also have Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. of Agriculture have said he also tendered his resignation. TESDA Director General Kiko Benitez has expressed readiness to submit his courtesy resignation, as well as DMW. Department of Migrant Workers, Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak. Siya rin po ay naghain na ng kanyang courtesy resignation. As well as we also have, who is this? DepDev, Secretary Arsenio Balisacan. At saka si Rex Gatchalian ng DSWD, or Department of Social Welfare and Development, resigned as a secretary.
We expect all of them
department.
to tender. It doesn't, yung mga malilikot ang isip dyan, bago kayo mag-spread ng fake news, baka sabihin, nag-resign. No, this is a heed, courtesy, of request of the President for a courtesy resignation, which gives him the option to either reassign you or to put you or totally remove you, di ba?
Yeah,
so it's happened before. It's nothing new. For example, si Secretary Vince Dizon tendered his courtesy resignation. Now, if the President sees na may competency si Secretary Dizon in another department, pwede niyang ilagay doon, or to continue his good job
reappoint.
Sa DOTR, ibabalik siya doon. So,
but on record,
courtesy lang
on record, yung hinihingi niyang courtesy resignation kasi gusto nga niya daw talaga, 'di ba, third year of his administration, ayusin yung nakita niya sa resulta ng eleksyon na kulang pa supposedly yung ginagawa ng kanyang administrasyon, kaya meron siyang paghingi ng courtesy resignation.
Si Pinoy had 4 or 5 revamps also like this, so it's a common thing.
All right, in other news, leaders and experts from across Southeast Asia gather in Pasay for a high-stakes dialogue on maritime security. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes reports.
Representatives and dignitaries from all 10 member states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN have arrived in Pasay alongside regional experts, marine scientists, academics, and Coast Guard officials for the 3-day high-level dialogue on ASEAN maritime security. This aims to produce actionable recommendations to promote cooperation between and among the members of the ASEAN, discussing issues such as those of South China Sea, fishery management, marine scientific research and environmental protection, and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea or UNCLOS.
That persistent pursuit of rules-based order amidst the changing geopolitical and security landscape is an expression of the region's desire for strategic autonomy and agency.
The search for consensus has become an obstacle to arrive at important and unified mechanisms that should be our armor in collectively resolving a wide range of regional issues.
The event is organized by the non-government group We Protect Our Seas in partnership with the Philippine Coast Guard and the National Maritime Council. It hopes to allow the ASEAN member states to discuss where each stands on issues without the influence of any great power, as representatives from China and the United States are absent from the dialogue.
While our nations may face distinct realities, we are tied by the maritime spaces that connect us. It is through sustained cooperation and shared sense of responsibility that we can turn common challenges into opportunities for collective progress.
While things continue to escalate in the West Philippine Sea, where Chinese vessels were recently suspected of conducting unauthorized marine research, spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela, says there will be no pointing of fingers and ganging up against countries in the dialogue, but only an avenue to speak on regional concerns in Southeast Asia.
When you talk about the rules-based order, the international law, I don't think that you need to gang up somebody to align with what you are pushing for. I believe all of us in Southeast Asia want to have regional stability, peace, and cooperation for the development of each state.
The 2025 dialogue on ASEAN maritime security will run until Friday, May 23, a few days before the start of this year's ASEAN Summit in Malaysia. One News serves as the official media partner of the event. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes, we are One News.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
Private hospitals raise concern over more than 7 billion pesos worth of unpaid medical services, citing political sponsorship issues. The Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines, or PHAPI, questioned whether its members would still be compensated, given that some patients were endorsed by political candidates who failed to secure seats in the May 12 polls. These services were rendered under the Medical Assistance for Indigent and Financially Incapacitated Patients Program. PHAPI called on the Department of Health to expedite the release of payments to hospitals that provided services under the said program.
There are around 1,200 private hospitals sa country. And we were able only to get around an estimate for around 40 plus hospitals, private hospitals. So actually that is a very conservative estimate, the 7 billion that they owe us.
Ito, I agree with this. For most of us, coffee is an important part of our day. But is there a best time to drink your daily dose of caffeine? Para bigyan ng mukha ang balita, Mobile Journal Jazz Paredes.
Kapatid, kabilang ka ba sa samahan ng Coffee's Life? Yung tipong hindi pwedeng mawala sa iyong daily routine ng pag-inom ng kape? Base sa pag-aaral, okay lang daw yan. Basta, tama ang timing. Gaano kadalas kang magkape? Ito ang sagot ng ilan sa mga kasama ko sa newsroom.
Nakakadalawa akong kape sa isang araw. Kapag sa umaga, first thing in the morning, pagkagising ko. Then, yung pangalawa naman is sa hapon.
Siguro mga 3 hanggang 5 sa isang araw. Minsan may umaga, siyempre, prepare ka for work. While doing the work, and after the work.
Mga once a day ganun. Bago ako pumasok, mga tanghali ganun.
Siguro mga 3 beses sa isang araw. Ganun. Breakfast, lunch, pati dinner. Ganun. Para habang kumakain na yung water. Yung pamalit sa water, kumbaga.
Nitong Enero, inaral ng European Society of Cardiology ang coffee drinking patterns ng nasa 40,000 adults na sumali sa US National Health and Nutrition Survey mula 1999 to 2018. Lumabas dyan na nasa 36% ang morning coffee drinkers, 48% ang non-coffee drinkers, habang 16% yung mga umaga hanggang gabi umiinom ng kape. Dito nakumpara na yung mga morning coffee drinkers, 16% na mas mababa ang tsansang mamatay sa anumang dahilan. At 31% din na mas mababa ang risk nilang maging cause of death sa cardiovascular disease. Doon naman sa mga all-day coffee drinkers, halos parehas lang daw ang risk nila kumpara sa mga hindi umiinom ng kape. Sang-ayon dito ang ating resident kapatid physician na si Doc Tex.
Well, totoong maganda na mayroong timing din na pag-inom ng kape. Tandaan natin na ang isang tasa ng kape, kapag ininom mo bago ka matulog, pwede ka mahirapan matulog. And sleep deprivation can cause a lot of problems as well in the long run. Kung sleep deprived ka, you are more prone to cardiovascular diseases and other things. Say for example, prone ka rin sa obesity.
Ibig sabihin yan, good sleep pattern equals good cardiovascular and overall health. Isa raw paliwanag dyan, pag umaga kasi, pinaka-inflame umaga ang ating katawan. Natural anti-inflammatory ang kape, kaya nakakatulong ito. Sabi pa ni Doc, okay lang naman uminom ng 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day. Basta hanggang 240 ml lang kada baso. Iwasan din ang sobrang creamer o asukal dahil maaari itong magdulot ng pagtaas ng blood sugar.
At pinakamaganda din kung walang asukal so that we reap the benefits ng mga antioxidants na tinatawag o yung mga anti-inflammatory effects.
Moderation is key. Yan ang laging paalala, mapakapiman o sa ibang aspekto ng buhay. Mobile Journal Just Paredes po, hatid ang mukha ng balita.
President Bongbong Marcos welcomed PLDT Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan along with the cast and crew of the Hollywood film The Last Resort in Malacanang yesterday. Pangilinan serves as executive producer of the $30 million movie which is being shot across the Philippines. The film highlights local tourism with scenes shot in El Nido, Cebu, and BGC. Marcos praised the film for promoting Filipino culture and tourism to the world. The Last Resort stars Daisy Ridley and Alden Ehrenreich is slated for release on Valentine's Day next year.
Ayun, so congratulations sa exciting movie, Valentine's. Love story kaya ito.
Last Resort.
Last Resort. Sige.
Meron ka bang ano?
Quote, hindi ko na sa ulo
Choose kindness every day.
Before I let you go, nandiyan na sana eh.
Ayan
Kayo
na,
naman. I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. This one is from Nelson Mandela. It is better to lead from behind and to put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory. Diba? Unahin ang iba. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.